interest rate down, I'd try to stay away from that HELOC. But for renovations and things that will improve the value of your home, that would be the way to go. Hopefully that helps. We appreciate your call, sir. Call anytime. To Park Ridge, Illinois. Hi, Angie. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes, I am calling regarding a large cash property inheritance I've just received, and this is all new to me. I need help. I guess what your suggestion would be so as not to be taxed. So,
well, there is no federal inheritance tax paid by beneficiaries, which would be what you are. So if you're the one receiving the inheritance, there is no federal inheritance tax. It's possible the estate that, where the person passed away may owe federal estate taxes prior to you getting the money, but that wouldn't be you. That would be the estate, and that would only be if the estate was valued at more than $13 million per person. But regardless, there is no federal inheritance tax on you as the beneficiary receiving the inheritance. Now, 6 states do have an inheritance tax: Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Nebraska, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, but not Illinois. So you shouldn't have any taxes on this.
I recently, last year, when I filed my income taxes, I filed independently to kind of hash out where I was, and that inheritance was around $150,000. I ended up paying something like $18,000 in taxes.
Yeah, I'd be a little confused about that. I mean, the only time you have taxes triggered related to an inheritance would be if it's an asset that appreciates after you receive it, because right now inherited assets like stocks and real estate get a step up in basis to the fair market value as of the date of death. So if you sell it right away, there's no capital gains tax. And again, there is no federal inheritance tax that's paid by beneficiaries, which is what you would be. So maybe there's some element of this that I'm, not aware of in terms of what's going on in your situation, but you shouldn't have paid tax just by virtue of you receiving an inheritance because there is no such thing.
Okay, thank you so much. I will call the accountant that did the taxes. Have a wonderful day. God bless.
All right, you too, Angie. Thanks for your call. Let's finish in Nashville today. Hi, Eric. Go ahead.
How you doing today, Rob?
Good. Thank you.
I have a question for you. Me and my wife, we paid off our house in October 2024, and I feel like there's something else that we need to do. Do we need to possess our deed and our title, have it in hand? Because I've been hearing about this title insurance fraud thing that's been going on. People been stealing your identity and getting loans out in your home.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, there is title monitoring, so there's something called Home Title Lock, which is a little bit of a misnomer. It's a monthly subscription between $20 and $30 where they'll monitor your county's records for unauthorized changes. You can do that yourself, and in fact, most counties now offer an automated alert if you set it up. So I'd probably go to your county recorder's office's website and just see if they have the alert that you can set up on your deed. So if something changes, they'll let you know. Hey, congrats on paying off that loan, Eric. Thanks for your call today. That's going to do it for us today, folks. Thanks to my team, Devin Patrick, Pat Montague, and Jim Henry. Couldn't do it without him. Thank you for being here as well. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and come back and join us tomorrow. Lord willing, I'll be here, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
How do you choose to stay informed? Sure, you can find all kinds of sources for information and commentary, but when you want them from a Christian perspective, turn to The Stand. Whether you choose to read the online blog or get the print version delivered to your mailbox, you can rest assured you'll receive factual news and biblically sound commentary. Find out more today at afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Authorities have detained the wife and kids of the Aurora, Colorado terrorist and want to know how much they knew about the attack. ICE has detained the family, and they face deportation. Former acting Deputy DHS Secretary Ken Cuccinelli says people staying after their visas expire is an old tactic.
For people who want to harm America, and we've never had the political will, the closest we came was the first Trump administration, to actually pursuing these people once their visas run out, including the entire families. And it's absolutely appropriate to remove the family of a terrorist. As Marco Rubio had announced, that's something that we should be doing as a matter of course. These people don't have the right to stay here. It's a total privilege to come to the United States.
Yep.
Left-wing activist judges continue to use federal injunctions to block President Trump's agenda. George Washington University law professor and Fox News legal analyst Jonathan Turley says 60% of all injunctions ever issued against presidents have been against Donald Trump.
It's extraordinary. Alexander Hamilton referred to the judiciary as the least dangerous branch, but the framers didn't have national injunctions. They weren't aware that judges could effectively micromanage the executive branch. We recently had a Boston judge who had just a month earlier been effectively reversed by the Supreme Court. His injunction was at least lifted in what was a very controversial order to pay out grants that the administration thought might be fraudulent or wasteful. Well, 1 month later, he was back with a new national injunction saying that you couldn't make changes in the Department of Education. We have a new San Francisco judge who just said that the president cannot do reductions in force, which is a classic role, a classic priority of presidents, particularly Republicans.
West Virginia's Governor Patrick Morrisey recently led the West Virginia Investment Management Board in a decision to prohibit state investments in companies owned or controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. This includes a plan to divest from any currently held investments in such companies. Governor Morrisey stated that the CCP presents a national security risk and poses a financial risk the state can't afford.
Look, absolutely. It's so important that when we're looking, every state has a role to play in terms of its investment system. And so whether you're talking about our teachers fund or our various investments in the state, you want to make sure you're investing in entities that the population's feeling very comfortable with. And we know that over a number of years, the Chinese government has wrongly subsidized a lot of these companies.
A new video shared by the Libs of TikTok reportedly shows a U.S. hospital network explaining to employees how it is changing the name of its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, but keeping the content.
Libs of TikTok said in a social media post that a follower sent in the clip. It shows part of a presentation playing on a computer screen.
I just wanted to introduce this phrase, community impact and engagement, because you'll start to see more of this.
Libs of TikTok says this video shows Unity Point Health announcing they're changing the name of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, or DEI, to Community Impact and Engagement. Kurt Maselli is medical director for Do No Harm.
I think what's so key is what an office does really matters more than its name. And you're absolutely right. We have seen a lot of rebranding of DEI. The reality is that if the office is doing DEI but calls it something else, it's still doing DEI.
If you don't know, one major problem with DEI is that it teaches oppressor-oppressed ideology, which means society is set up to where one race or group is superior to another. He invites people to visit donoharmmedicine.org.
We just recently published a report called Zombie DEI, when ideology circumvents state legislation. And in addition to Trump's EOs and such, there have also been lots of laws in various states really promoting merit, promoting excellence, and outlawing DEI's discriminatory and divisive nature. Unfortunately, what we see in this zombie report is that there's still many public institutions that are engaging in these practices.
I'm Bronson Woodruff.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The political climate in America has changed. We've been given a reprieve, and we have to work together to take advantage of that momentum and effect even more cultural and spiritual change. We can rebuild America. The American Family Association is working to do just that, and when you join with your support, it helps maximize the impact. As our thanks, we'll give you a DVD of biblical financial advice from Rob West called Biblical Stewardship. Please visit afa.net and get started today.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Wednesday, June the 4th, 2025. I'm Tim Wildmon with Ed Battagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Wesley Wildmon.
All right, I'm back.
Right, you're back.
I'm back because I was out for 2 weeks, and now I was here yesterday, here today. I'm back for good.
Back
for good.
Till next week.
Yeah, that's right. To my schedule. I'm back on schedule.
Yeah, back on schedule. Fred Jackson, good morning, Fred.
Here on schedule.
And let me just say, it's Fred's birthday today.
Hey.
I'm not singing, but I just wanted to wish Fred a happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much.
Happy birthday, Fred.
Thank you.
So, how many years you been on this earth?
71.
All right.
71 as of today.
Right,
you don't look a day over 70.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Probably
that.
can you still ice skate? Could you still play some hockey?
Ice. When they have ice in the local arena here in Tupelo, about 3 weeks of the year, I put the skates on and go.
Good for you.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
Enjoy it very much.
Well, happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. I
no
am blessed.
We're not going to sing.
Enjoyed hockey,
but now
play
Wesley.
hockey growing up?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
You grew
this.
up in Canada.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Did you play high school and college?
I knew you grew up
or
in
just
Canada, but you just made it sound like it's on automatic.
Yep. Middle school, high school.
It's part of being a citizen. You have to go.
No, I think when you grow up in Canada, it's a rite of passage.
Okay.
You play hockey or you're a sissy.
But I mean, you played on a
That's
team.
one or the other.
You played on a high school team.
Played on a high school team. In fact, our team last weekend, there was a major celebration in my hometown area, Sydney, Nova Scotia, where our high school team, was inducted into the Cape Breton Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I mean, he's the real deal.
I thought Dad was going to say you played hockey in Canada or you got deported.
Well, that is true, probably. My question, one question I have about hockey is, do they even broach the subject of sportsmanship? Or
it's actually a lot of sportsmanship at the end, at like a playoff series.
Yeah,
the teams line up and shake hands.
Yeah.
I got my tongue halfway in my cheek here on this one, because there's just so much fighting in hockey. That's why you wonder, do they?
But you got to watch it carefully, because sometimes after the fight, quotation marks, is over, they kind of laugh at each other. It's kind
like we gave the fans what they wanted.
Well, no, it's just not to your point, because this is
right. Be careful when you say to Tim's point.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Because sometimes players will be mic'd up like they do in other sports, and it's not unusual for guys who have just fought say, "Hey, good bout, good fight."
Yeah.
And it's just because the fighting actually.
Please hand me my eye socket. Yes.
And
then we'll move on.
Okay.
Anyway,
it's just I'm trying to make some serious points here.
Listen, you're not going to get seriously hurt when you're covered up the way that players are,
except for your fist.
Well, but you got a helmet on, that sort of thing. Now they do try to pull the jersey over the head, so they have greater flexibility in where to hit.
They do that in pro wrestling. You know what I'm saying? For those who wear shirts. All right.
And people ask me, "What? Do you remember when you first time you went skating?" And I honestly, I don't.
Was that early?
It just happens,
right?
Back to Dad's point.
Yeah,
you're right.
In Canada, man, you grow up.
I was trying not to profile. Go ahead.
Well, no, they bring you home from the hospital and they put you in the baby crib and they put some skates on you. That's what they do in Canada.
That extra weight.
Go to it.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, Fred, and Wesley. What's our first story, Fred?
Well, our first story, if you go to afn.net, the first Associated Press story that you will see there this morning is a picture. That picture is of a bit of a love fest that was carried out in the Oval Office last Friday afternoon. And that's when Elon Musk, the head of the Doge team, he had lived out his 130 days that he was allowed to head up that team. And President Trump just praised the wonderful work that Elon Musk had done. Well, if that meeting had been scheduled for this Friday, it probably would not have come off. Because in the last 24 hours, Elon Musk, who is now a free man, is describing President Trump's big, beautiful bill of tax breaks and spending cuts as a, quote, disgusting abomination. Those are the words being used.
You can have a beautiful abomination. You know, there are distinguishing factors between a beautiful abomination and a disgusting abomination. And Elon Musk went with the
disgusting.
Yes,
yeah, he unloaded on his ex, which he owns. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know who you did wrong. You know it. End quote.
That was on. He posted that on X. Elon Musk did.
Yeah, he's allowed to post there.
Yeah. All right. So you have this rift now between President Trump and Elon Musk.
Yes.
They had the bromance.
Yes.
For a few months, and Elon Musk did some great work in exposing waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. At least I thought he did, and his team did. But he left to go back to Tesla because Tesla was hurting because of his absence and because of his political involvement. He had been attacked by the left. But listen, I understand both sides of this. Well, let me just say this.
Two friends in a fight.
Yeah, I understand what the philosophical difference is here, but I don't understand the minutia of it, and I don't have the time to invest in that too much. Right. In terms of, okay, so President Trump is pushing this big, beautiful bill. Was that what they call it?
Mm-hmm. That's what he calls it.
Okay, and critics of the bill within the Republican ranks, like Elon Musk, for example, include Senator Ron Paul. Now, he may be, I don't know, maybe they're
Rand Paul.
What did I say? His dad?
Ron, yeah.
Okay. So there are a few others, but few brave to speak. Few are brave enough to speak out because they will be slapped down by President Trump and his team there in the White House, as Rand Paul was yesterday. President Trump said nobody in Kentucky likes Rand Paul. He votes no on everything. That's what when President Trump turns on you, as I
you
said
get everything
before,
but the kitchen
sink. Yeah, he's gonna pull your pants down. Okay, that's the way I phrase it. And then 2 days from now, you're golfing with him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I couldn't deal with that, but some people can, I guess. I don't know. By that I don't mean people don't have their political differences and then they can be friends. They can, but the way Trump sometimes hits below the belt makes it hard to make up. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But President Trump would say, and Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, who is a conservative, would say, no, this is the best legislation we can get, and over time it'll help the economy, and we'll be able to stop the bleeding in terms of the national debt, which is now at $30-something trillion.
37
trillion dollars. Let me say one other thing on this, and then I'll stop, and you guys can comment on it. Here's what the truth is, in my humble opinion. The USS, this is going to sound so depressing. The ship USA is on the river toward the Niagara Falls in terms of the what this debt will do to our economy eventually. But there's nobody on the USS America headed toward Niagara Falls because we're still out there on the river and the rapids are increasing a little bit. But there's nobody going to say, hey, we need to stop spending, stop doing this, stop doing that.
To pull this off the banks.
It's too painful. It's too painful to do. And the votes aren't there, and people are living in the moment, as is President Trump. He doesn't want the economy to go down on his watch, so he's going to try to do the best he can for the moment and let the future worry about itself. And that's the way it's been in Washington for a long, long time. And so this is really nothing new. Rand Paul's prophecy and others that eventually this will cause doom and gloom for the American economy, this debt that we have, is probably true, but that's been predicted for 20 years now, that the debt, we $5 trillion of debt. Right. Oh, my word, we're going to $10 trillion of, 20 trillion. What? I remember asking a congressman on the air 10 years ago, whenever it was, on this program, I said, when does the American economy crash and burn? $50 trillion in debt? And he couldn't answer me because there is no real definitive answer, because who knows how much you can go in debt. And I think President Trump and the congressmen up there now are living in the moment. I'm not saying President Trump doesn't care, but I'm saying he's in favor of this. It does increase the debt, but he's going to be retired in 3 years.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And leave it for the future people to deal with. But I don't think the future people are going to deal with it either until we have some sort of 9/11 economic.
Well, I think two things quickly. President Trump is betting on, if I can put it that way, that his policies, even if it temporarily increases the deficit, is going to lead to a hugely successful and growing economy, which will bring in tax revenues that can then help decrease the deficit. The second thing I would say, and I like your
Niagara Falls
thing. Here's what I would just add to this metaphor. The only way to turn the ship around and avoid going over the falls, like we see sometimes on movies, is to start throwing stuff overboard. And everyone says, yeah, okay, we need to do that, but we don't want to go over the falls. But then when you reach for their stuff, they go, well, not that.
Right.
And everybody's doing that. And so nothing gets thrown overboard. And by that, I mean making significant cuts.
Yeah.
And so we're just waiting until we can hear the rapids.
Right.
We don't actually know how close we are to going over them.
Right. So anyway, the bottom line is Elon Musk is no fan of this big, beautiful bill.
No, and it's a rift. To this point, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, they have had a look at this bill. They came out with a report this morning. I'll just read you one line here. The bill, making its way through Congress, will cut taxes by $3.7 trillion, but also increase deficits by $2.4 trillion over the next decade. That is their assessment of the bill as it stands. Now, Senate Majority Leader John Thune had some comments on what Elon Musk is saying, and he's kind of explaining the way you guys have been talking here, that the positives of the bill will diminish the deficit over time. Mm-hmm. So I want you to have a listen to him. Cut number 3.
The administration has identified a number of wasteful uses of taxpayer dollars, and we will be taking up this package and eliminating this waste. And if Congress doesn't act, Americans making less than $400,000 a year will see a $2.6 trillion tax hike in 2026. It talks about modernizing our military, making America energy dominant, securing our border, and making sure that the American people aren't faced with a $4.5 trillion tax increase at the end of this year. It's interesting to me that what they are going to be fighting against is border security, modernizing our military, making America energy dominant, and they are going to be voting for the largest tax increase in American history. We are excited to be working with the President and working with our colleagues in the House of Representatives on the agenda that the American people elected last November.
Yeah, so that was a montage of John Thune comments over the last couple of days on this. So in the CBO report that came out this morning says the estimates an increase of 10.9 million people without health insurance under the bill, including 1.4 million who are in the country illegally. You got to be careful and add some context when you're going to be reading these figures today. The Trump administration is very clear. No, there are no Medicare cuts, no Social Security cuts, no Medicaid cuts. But what they're doing is removing people who they deem shouldn't be in those programs.
Right.
In other words, the strong, healthy male who should be out there working. A lot of these people have found their ways into Medicaid in particular. So they're saying we're going to go after those people who should not be taking advantage of these programs, and therefore that will represent a saving against some of the increases in expenditures, for instance, on border security.
I got a question. So outside the obvious thing that we would not agree with, and that's adding to the national debt, which is a biggie. Set that aside. What's in the bill is defunding Planned Parenthood. That's in the bill, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So is there anything else in the bill, or is there anything in the bill? Not else. Is there anything in the bill that a conservative,
I'm reading it,
or a Republican?
So I mean, if you give me time this afternoon, I'll be on.
Did you notice my eyes were not directed at you?
Yeah, no,
because
I'm on page 749, but it's going to take me a while.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. In the talking points for the conservatives, is there anything in here that we need to be concerned about?
Well, I mean, as apart from the talk of the debt and all that.
That's
right. Marjorie Taylor Greene, right?
Yeah.
She said yesterday or the day before, she's the congresswoman from Georgia, who's I'm generally a fan of. I mean, she says some things that I go, what in the world? But I mean, for the most part, she's
she's a live wire.
Even she said like 2 days ago,
live wire.
Even she said like 2 days ago, what?
Nobody does.
She said that out loud. I was going like, wait a minute. They're supposed to read. They're supposed to have time to read it,
and if not them, their staff.
Their staff to alert them to what's in there. That's why. Listen,
this is like you said. This is the way the game has been played for the last 25 years.
Yes, and it will be.
Yes,
and it will be. It will be like this until we go over Niagara Falls, if that ever happens.
And then, pity the fool who's in the White House.
That's Wesley. Who's that quote's from?
Yeah.
When that ship goes over, whoever's in the White House, they'll be going, "It's you. You did it."
It's like a what do you call it? Musical chairs.
Yes, musical chairs. Listen, another thing I get tired of, because this is all games.
It is
in D.C. Is over the next 10 years,
oh, that's right, yeah.
We're going to increase revenues and we're going to cut it over the next 10 years. And the next Congress is going to make changes. But today, all the members of Congress can say, well, over the next 10 years, we're going to save. Yeah,
that's why they don't have to deal with the pain of and the protest of cutting the government today. Go ahead, Wes. We want to move on.
I was going to encourage us to move on.
Yeah, I think you're
because
right.
This is
all in favor of moving on. Raise your hand.
We're
going to move on. Fred, you want to continue to talk about this?
No, it keeps me in business.
I'd like to see us talking about this over the next 10 years.
Yeah. Huh? Oh, yeah.
This is a segment when I get back to my desk and I get an email that says, y'all sounding like honking geese.
Honking. Do you really get those?
I've got one before, and I think this is the segment he's talking about.
Oh, that's when we used to play Joe Biden listening to the honking geese in the background at his home. Remember that? It's like 5 years ago. We played that a lot.
Sounds like that's what the guy
was.
But he was insulting us that way, though.
Yeah.
We're like honking geese?
Yeah.
Listen, if I want that kind of abuse, I'll just go home. All right?
She's not listening.
That's hurtful.
It works out good.
That's really hurtful. All right, Fred, next story.
Well, in the wake of the tragedy in Boulder, Colorado, last Sunday, when the man from Egypt, who was in this country illegally, used Molotov cocktails
Do we need to say allegedly, or is he confessed?
Oh, no, he's confessed.
All right.
He's even said, I wish I had been able to kill everybody.
Oh, my.
He is told. And this has been read out publicly.
Okay.
All right. In the country illegally. His family now, his wife and 5 kids, Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, says they are in custody and they are going to be deported. But the other aspect, the incident in Boulder on Sunday seemed to be a tipping point in this country where people are saying, wait a minute, this degree of anti-Semitism, of course, the Boulder incident coming in the wake of the assassination of those two young Jewish couple last couple of weeks ago now in Washington, D.C. It seemed to be a tipping point in what is going on in this country. How is it in the United States of America we have so many people who are anti-Semitic, that hate the Jewish people? And I saw an interesting interview this morning, and you gentlemen are much more abreast of Major League Baseball players. Retired, I think he's a Red Sox player.
He was.
Kevin Youkilis. Kevin Youkilis. He was interviewed this morning. He is Jewish. I think he now, one of the things he does is coach an Israeli baseball team. But he was talking about a comment that came from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently in the wake of the Boulder incident, where she almost seemed to discover that there's an anti-Semitism problem in this country. I want you to have a listen to what he had to say. Here is Hard on this, cut number 7.
The Jewish people are just tired. We're tired of having to deal with so much hatred. We're tired, and the one thing that I've seen is just a lot of Jewish people are scared. I've seen a lot of people talk to a lot of people about what they're doing on their own. Even people becoming gun owners that probably never would have been gun owners a long time ago and were anti-guns. But for me and what I've seen and the rhetoric, it's just the globalized intifada is a triggering word for a lot of Jewish people and for Israelis. For people that don't know about the intifadas and do the research on it, it's not even just about Jewish people. Intifadas create chaos and create a lot of destruction on both sides of the fight. And when we hear this rhetoric and it's pushed out in our universities and on the streets, it just has to stop. It brings a lot of fear. Right. It stokes the violence.
One of the other survivors in Boulder, Colorado there, he used an interesting phrase the other day. He says, Jews in this country are now being hunted. That's scary. That's scary. We're being hunted. And there's real fear, and it crosses Jewish people who vote Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever the case may be. We have a problem that needs to be dealt with. It was manifested first in the university campuses, but it's going well beyond that now.
I think this is the reason it's getting worse and is not when Kevin Youkilis says it needs to stop. It's not going to, and the reason is this is part of an ideology. Mm-hmm. It is an ideology that is anti-Western, anti-West. It is Marxist, and it will use any idea that is hostile to Western ideals. So that's why you have a bizarre partnership between the homosexual community and Hamas.